Good morning. This is the Tuesday, January 18th meeting of the Stockbridge Board of Assessors.
Good morning. So we'll start with last meeting minutes. I'm looking at them right now. Let me just go over it real quick. You signed the form of list notice. Those got posted in the bulletin board. Map and deed changes, those I'm still working on. Income and expense statements for the certifications of commercial properties, those are going out next week. Form of list are going out this week. And that's really it from the last meeting minutes.
Mike, do you want each of us to have one of these? Is that the?
Yes. So there are exemption certificates from the for the different clauses from the last meeting that you signed. Those are just the certificates. They have to go out. They have to be signed. There's the one denial notice for previously reviewed exemption application that didn't qualify, that has to be signed. Again, form of list number 4 are being mailed. It's actually going to be this week, not next week. Those will be for the businesses. The ones for the second home owners, those are going to take a little bit longer to work on. So those will be going out in a couple of weeks. We have till the end of the month to submit our fiscal year 23 budget. That's what I have right here. What this is that Mike gave us is just the, and I highlighted the FY22 amount that we had, which basically was the same that we had for fiscal year previous. But this won't include the separate amounts that we have to include for any special articles that we may have or funding that we might need. And since we're in a certification year, fiscal year 23 for our valuations, there are going to be certain things that we're going to be required to budget for. Typically, we don't do it in our own. The only thing is we have an appraisal service line, and that should be a lot more than what it is, but we actually used money out of our own account to pay for the utility appraisals last year. They were $4,000. They're going to be $4,000 again this year, and it's something we still have to continue to pay for. We were hoping that we could, within the communities, figure out a way of doing those values ourselves. But it seems like that kind of went down the drain because our association lost 2 people that were helping us with it. They took jobs in different communities, so they're no longer on our committees. And the whole idea of doing a spreadsheet and trying to figure out how to do these values ourselves, no one's working on it currently. What the towns are doing is they're just funding it the way they have been funding it. So we're going to have to, at least again for this year, until we can come to some consensus on how locally we can come together and share a procedure to do this thing. I mean, and actually the amount that we paid for the service versus the amount of extra tax revenue that we received definitely pays for itself. And there were no appeals on the utility values, at least for this year. I don't have a consensus going forward yet as to if there were other communities that they didn't appeal in. I know they did in Pittsfield, because I talked to the assessor last week, but for some reason it didn't happen here.
So again, we use the professional services to determine that value.
Yes.
But they did not appeal it.
Right.
Therefore, it might be money well spent.
Absolutely. And I will do a brief analysis of the amount of money that they paid extra for fiscal 22 versus the $4,000 that we paid for it. And again, I'd like to go with the same service, RRC, because if they do for any reason decide to appeal, almost all the communities are using RRC, so there could be basically a break on what we would be charged if we needed them for an appraisal backup for the ATB. But luckily, we don't have to worry about that for this year. Doesn't mean they won't appeal going forward. It's still a mystery as to why they didn't, because they did in other communities, but that's not for me to try to figure out. So,
So Michael, you mentioned last meeting that didn't have to budget for postage, but postage is in here.
it is in here, but we have a new postage meter, and I was told that it's gonna be one account now. My concern with that is because we're in a certification year, we have income expense statements going out, which typically don't. We have the form of lists. We have form of lists that are going to all the second homeowners. And there also might be a mailer that has to be done and again, if this is something that, they propose, there might be a questionnaire or something that goes forward on the residential exemption. If that's the case, that may come out of not our budget, but maybe the selectmen's account. But definitely the form of list, we have a couple thousand in there. I want to make sure that that's not wiped out just because they decided to lump everything into one account. So I'll double check that and find out. I don't think we need to budget anymore because we've carried over our money and we've had quite a bit in there.
So you're saying we've carried over a couple thousand in postage.
Yeah, I think we have at least $1,500 in postage. That will cover quite a bit for what we have to get done for this year. I just want to make sure we don't deplete it and go into other people's, because we have certification coming up and you never know what the state's going to throw at us, send this out, send that out. But I'll double check. The last I heard, they wanted to create one account for postage. And I initially said I was a little concerned and people are, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. But again, certification changes things. There's a lot that comes up this year and we've got a ton of mailings that have to get. Oh, and also there's another mailing that's going to have to go out is once the valuations are done, we have to send notice, the impact notice to all the out of town residents to what their new value is. So basically we're going to be doubling what we normally do because we're going to be sending out the form of list to all the second homeowners and an impact notice to all the second homeowners. So that's, you're talking, let's just say 800 at this point, because it's not, the impact notices will be anyone that's outside of Stockbridge and not necessarily just a second homeowner. So there's always more than that. So right there alone, 1,500 mailings in 1 year just for our part. So I'll definitely make sure we have enough in there and that it's not depleted because this is a year we have, I'm sure they'll figure out a way to put it in there. If it's one account and everyone's using it, I just want everyone to know other offices that we have a lot of things coming up that tax bills are going to come out of there.
Well, that's the thing is all of our mailings are required by law or
Absolutely.
or to get the.
Yes, I would love to email people, but we don't have emails on all the second homeowners. It'd be nice if we did, but the state requires that if there's a change in assessment during a reval, you are to notify anyone that can't come here easily. That's why we put the note. We'll do those books like a manual on the counter that people can come in, look up their value locally. But if you're a second homeowner or out of towner, you can't just easily come in and look at those books. So we will have to be sending out a notice as soon as those values are set. And that's standard.
Well, with that being said, Michael, you still can go onto our website and you can look up your valuation and anybody else's valuation. It's all available online.
And actually at that point, what we can do is put the spreadsheet on there too. Because I think in a certification, there's part of our public disclosure that we do, but it would be an added thing to also just post the street listing that we typically do and put it out there.
I think this.
I don't think there's going to be, I don't want to jump the gun and say, I don't know what the changes are going to be. There's definitely going to be some changes because of the sales, but will there be changes that the state makes us do that are out of the ordinary? I don't think so. But still, we have to do public disclosure and we have to follow the guidelines or we can't get our tax rate set.
I mean, the full tax list might not be appropriate if it includes all of the mailing specific data, just because it might cause spam or
Right.
But I mean, so redact some information, so.
Yeah, sure.
So it doesn't.
And again, if someone needs something, we can email it to them. You know, we can get a PDF of record cards, a PDF of a report. A lot has happened because of COVID to be able for us to get information to people, and it's worked really good. So if we want to just go quickly through these, and then I can mention the ones that I think we're going to have to include as a separate list with an explanation to the select board and the finance committee. Appraisal services, what we were doing is putting $500 a year in that account. So when the certification came around, because we're gonna need an appraisal done on the Glendale power plant, the hydro plant. That's typically $2,000. We haven't had it done in 5 years, and the issue with that is the appraiser that we typically use, Roy Bishop, has retired, but I believe his son has taken over for him. So I'm gonna email him this week and see if we can get a quote from him for that amount. That's where that's where the 500 was. We were accumulating that every year. If you go back to FY18 appropriations, see where it says 2,000, that was the amount of the appraisal. So when Elaine was the accountant, she had suggested that we put $500 away each year in the account. So when we came up to certification, we had enough money where we wouldn't have to go to town meeting to pay for that. Well, we're gonna need other things as well. So I think what we could do is possibly just for this year, eliminate that 500, because I'm going to be asking for separate items anyway, whether they can be funded within or they have to go to town meeting as an article. I know in the past, we haven't had to do that, and we were able to find the extra funds to be able to pay for anything that we needed during certification. But this time around with the utility values, the $4,000 for that, the $2,000 for the appraisal for the Glendale hydro plant. We had also talked, Doug, about the finally getting the pictures on that is a software update. And there's also a thing that came in that I was looking through my emails. I had asked because we're on a different camera system, it's just an upgraded system. I don't have the capability now of hitting a button like I used to on the screen and doing a conversion so it uploads the data to the Access GIS. I can do it, but I have to do it from the old system, version 6, which means that I have to do all of the updates on 2 systems at this point, and I'm still doing it, just to make sure that I can get the mailing address changes, ownership changes, map and lot changes, and deed changes onto that website for people to be able to view. I have a quote for that. That's $1,800 for that amount. And again, if we can lump all these things into one, again, I know there's available money from, with what happened with COVID, but I'm not sure if that can cover certain things like this, I mean, I have a feeling, and again, these are things that part of it's from what the state's going to require. Part of it is what we've put off for a few years, the sketches, this updating on the mapping, I think is essential. I mean, because I don't want to have to continue having to do changes on two computer systems. I've done it for 3 years now, and now I'm in a reval. I'm not going to have time to do all the changes that the state says that we have to do on 2 different systems. So that's a must. And I thought it was going to be an $800 charge. It's $1,800 for it. It's a one-time computer rewrite to give me an upload from version 8 Vision up to Access GIS, and I would no longer have to use the old system. So I would say that's an emergency that has to get done. The appraisal for the utilities, the appraisal for the hydro, the sketches, and the upload, I think are musts at this point. I don't think we could just say, let's push this off another year. That's something that if they can't find money within, it's going to have to be on article at the town meeting for these.
No, you should put it in the budget. I mean, just for it to be said, I mean, our budget as currently is like 6,400, which is very consistent. Our budget for 2018 was 7,800, 2000, that was 2000, yeah.
I know we come really close on dues and subscriptions. Meetings and travel, the thing with that is it's still up in the air for schooling, but no matter what happens this year, whether it's online or in person, it is a must that I attend.
Yeah.
I've missed it 2 years in a row and I need the accreditation for the certification, so that has to be done this year.
Yeah, I mean, this budget is a drop in the bucket in the large picture for the town of Stockbridge. I mean,
I think
what this office does generates a large portion of what the town needs to run on and to do properly is necessary. So I don't even think we should be having this discussion. If you need to have $1,800 to do your job efficiently, I don't think anybody's going to question it. So
well, what I was gonna do is this is how it's submitted this year. Mike wants it sent back with us filling in the requested amount. And I did ask him, where do I put? Typically I type up a memo for every additional amount that we're requesting. He told me to just add it in below.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'll submit it.
yeah,
So it's
But I'll
gonna be
send
like
it to you guys
5,800 more.
first before I do that.
yeah.
It'll be 5,800 more than what?
And again, those are above and beyond. I mean, the software for the pictures, once we have it, then we do it within. It's
Yeah.
not a $5,000 charge every year. Same thing with the 1,800 for the conversion. Once they do it, they're not gonna do it again. We have it. And once we're out of this year for any revale expenses, we won't incur those expenses for another 5 years. Not 3 years, because they've changed it. So I don't think it's asking too much.
No.
Honestly. I mean, these are things that, I mean, our maps are up to date. They're not gonna make us change our maps. We have the latest version of the CAMA system. And if there's anything that we need, we make do with what we have in our office. We figure it out.
So where do we stand getting up the sketches of the buildings?
That is a PDF it's a software that will convert our sketches from because there's a copyright on those sketches. It will take what we have and convert it to a PDF. And then I send the file to them, they upload the file. So, and I've got to talk to Tim at CAI to make sure that it's still in existence and I just talked to him last year and he says it was there. And it's a workaround. It's not the best solution, but because we're using we're not using the mapping software that our valuation system provides. And I often wonder if that's something maybe we should look into. You know, I mean, I think people are so used to Access GIS. Access GIS is a product of our mapping company, not our revale company or our CAMA software.
Correct.
But more people use Access GIS than they do use Vision. So I'd be hesitant. I'd like to look into it because we could save that money. Our sketches would automatically appear, but you're taking something that's being used by a lot of people right now and going to a completely different system. I would have to relearn how to do everything, Butters list, mapping my sales, everything that I do on the current Access GIS would be done on Visions. And honestly, I would rather go with a GIS system that's done by a mapping company than a valuation company.
Agreed.
And pay for whatever we have to get those sketches on there.
Yeah, so I mean, I use a lot of these websites and a lot of towns in the area are using Access GIS as well. And
It's a great system.
We were an early adapter of it and now
Very.
most of the other towns are following.
Yep.
I know Great Barrington just changed theirs and they have, a few issues and they're using like Muni.
Yeah, there's not a week that goes by where we're not stepping through the procedures to a taxpayer. And once they find out how to use it, they love it.
Right.
So I would just be so hesitant just to get the workaround for the sketches to go with a completely different company. Don't get me wrong, Vision is a great company. They're just not a mapping company.
No.
And,
So we should do whatever we need to do to get those
Right.
map up. We've
Okay.
been talking about it for years.
For years. Yes.
And also, because it's a lot more convenient for people to have it accessible online immediately.
Especially
All in your
with
office.
what's happened with the pandemic. I mean, we've sent so many, sketches and record cards and maps over email, or we tell them how to do it. And then the next question is, well, where's the sketch? Unfortunately, there's a copyright issue, and I explained it to people, but it's been years. It really needs to be done. And I don't think it's asking for too much at this point. And it's a service. It's a service for everyone. So are we in agreement that we just keep what we have here? And then I will add the additional amounts, and I'll be talking to Joe at the DOR this week. And, if he's got anything that needs to be added, then we'll come back to it. Again, I want to submit this, but when I do submit the budget, I always tell them, we don't have the final numbers. We're still waiting for estimates, but at least they'll know from between now and budget review and now and the town meeting, we're going to need these things. And some of them, we may not be able to wait until, the next fiscal year for it to start when you're in a reval. Okay, so that's what we'll do on that. So we'll go into executive session. Tom, update.
I'll have an update next time, but we were not able to meet or move things forward over the holidays, but we're
Okay.
ready to do that this month.
All right. I didn't include on here, but we did get the notice for the submission of our annual report.
It's in here.
Oh, it's in there. Okay,
It's
yeah.
not on the agenda?
No, I got it. Like, I didn't have a chance to include it, but I will type that up and email it to you guys to review.
Yeah.
And then we can submit it. It's usually just a one pager. So we should go into executive session now.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to go into executive session, and we will not return to the public meeting. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you.